Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you have found us. This is Dreamers Live and the podcast number 009 coming to you from the Pioneer Dream Studios in the heart of the known universe, Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Oh, you know you've been looking for some materials from Bartlesville, and
Right.
Here they are.
Here we are. Here it is. And we're so thrilled to be with you guys again on this podcast episode. And just to let you know, we have something, as if this were not enough.
Oh.
We have another thing that is in the works.
Oh, yes.
And so as you know, we talk about a myriad of different topics and of interest on this podcast.
We do.
Some of them cross over with our Dreamers Live events, which we would be happy to do in a city near you if you would only let us. We'd love to do that.
We would love to.
And in the process, we talk about things, but we know our audience here is quite broad. And so we try to keep things in that broad spectrum as well. A couple of weeks ago, we were riding in the car, as we sometimes do.
We ride in the car a lot.
Yeah.
But
we were doing our 5th full-time job, which right now means being a chaperone for our daughter to all events that she goes to.
Right.
And so we had, count them, 3.5 hours alone in the vehicle. And while we were in that vehicle, the conversation weaved and turned just like the roads through Missouri. And we talked about a lot of stuff, and some of it went to what I would call the deep end of the pool. Do you remember the deep end of the pool when you were a kid?
Yes.
That was the place you kind of went, and you would hang on to the wall and talk about things, and your feet didn't touch, and it was all that kind of stuff. And it was,
and that's also where the sharks live.
That's right. It was dangerous and alert, but it was also where the big kids hung out, and so we always talk about it. Yeah. So our conversation went to the deep end of the pool, meaning we talked about some stuff that kind of went deep, and we weren't planning on it.
Right.
And it also went a little bit spiritual. And
did you say spiritual?
Spiritual.
That's spelled S-P-U-R-T?
That's what happens when you live in the diamond-encrusted belt buckle of the Bible Belt.
I think it's rhinestone encrusted.
It probably would be rhinestone. It's bedazzled to be the least.
It is definitely bedazzled.
And so we tend to stay away from things that are spiritual in a concentrated format when it comes to the Dreamers Live podcast, because we want to include all people in that, as many people as possible who want to listen to that, and we realize that's not everyone's bag.
Right.
Even though we're quite spiritual people. Also, if we're just being honest here amongst the friends,
yes.
Sometimes the culture of spirituality within this great little nation of ours is something we are both quite allergic to.
We are allergic to it.
So we often stay away from things that are spiritual because as if there's just enough crazy to go around, and we don't want to enter into that. But
there are things that we talk about a lot together. So we thought it might be interesting to have sort of a uncensored conversation.
Yes. Uncensored, unvarnished conversation amongst people who have no real reason or credit to talk about spiritual things. We are not trained in any way, format, wise on any of that stuff. So we will be doing a new podcast. We'll be giving you more details about that soon. It will be a separate podcast than this one. This will be a safe place if you are anti-spiritual or otherwise.
Right.
But if you would like to have some kind of unfiltered, unvarnished conversations about spiritual things, then that will be an interesting conversation for you.
And it's pretty funny. We've already recorded one.
We have.
And it was kind of hilarious, I think.
Yeah, and it is not censored either, so take that into consideration as you're listening to it. So,
for sure.
But that has nothing to do with
zero things to do with today.
This podcast is a podcast which is entitled Push Pins, and it's actually comes from a conversation we had in a Dreamers Live event quite a while back, and it was pretty interesting and telling. So we'll talk a little bit about that. It kind of opened with this conversation.
Push pins.
Okay. It's kind of opened, and you'll see why here in just a second, friends.
No, I can't wait.
It opened with this conversation. Both you and I grew up with music, as a lot of people did, and it played a pretty important role in our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
I grew up as a non-musician, but my music growing up, especially through high school, was really eclectic. So it might range from top 40 to hair bands to kind of deep cut classic rock stuff. My friends and I in high school would roam the back streets and the back highways and dirt roads, and we would just listen to music. So we would listen to a lot of the bands, so The Doors and The Cure and the Beatles and all that kind of stuff, and listen to stuff that was well beyond our years, and they would sing about things that we were not prepared for yet.
Really,
but. It became really important to us. And then from there, of course, we found bands that we still love today. So we found, like most people did, in the late 80s, early 90s, we found U2, and we found, bands like that kind of marked our childhood.
Yeah.
What were you, I mean, I don't want to call you out.
Come on, you are calling me out and throwing me under the bus and
no,
driving
but
back
you still had musical memories that were important to you.
I know. We talked about this before, but because we were raised in the rhinestone of the Bible Belt. Yeah. Rhinestone buckle encrusted.
The bedazzled buckle belt.
Bedazzled is different, but So we were in church a lot and kind of lived in a cocoon. My family was more open-minded and kind of aware of the culture around us, but the broader culture that I lived in. So it was the era for me and my siblings of, it was the heyday of Christian rock. Yeah. So, I know. And I remember... And so there was some good music in there. There was also some just...
I'm taking your word for it.
Christian-y stuff that wasn't good music, with the right lyrics.
There were some things that you had to listen to just because it came under the genre of Christian music.
That's right, exactly. And so, but there were some favorite bands that we had. Petra, I know, I'm making you laugh right now. Yeah. But like 6
God
people
gave
out
rock
there,
and roll to you.
He did. That was really good. They had a very cool album. And then they got a different lead singer, and it was like a whole thing. But we had our own culture of music.
But it was kind of unfair because it was the lead singer you're talking about is John Schlitt, who was actually the singer for Bread,
I know, that's
which
weird
was a phenomenal band. And then he went to I guess he got Christianed, and then he joined another band, and they went straight from soft rock, 70s rock, Bread, which was an amazing band, to high-pitched screaming hair band for Petra.
It kind of did. And anybody who remembers Petra will remember like there's early Petra and late Petra. But anyway, then later on, actually, when we got more into early college, there was like kind of this cool alternative Christian music scene, which was really interesting, where there was actually some really good music that happened to be Christian, and some stuff that pushed the edge of the envelope. So anyway, I said all that to say that I'm glad that I met you because there's like a whole, I mean, for many reasons, but there's like a whole world out there. Yeah. And I feel like you're still educating me on lots of music genres and lives and styles that I didn't know about. And I'm better for it. Yeah. So thank you.
And music, as we've said, I think we've talked about this too, but, when you was pregnant, we decided that we were going to educate our daughter on music early, and we didn't even wait for her to come out. We put headphones on your stomach.
I know. That's kind of ridiculous.
It is, but it's paid off.
Made a cute picture.
She's still connected to all that music now.
And she likes a lot of stuff from the 70s, 80s, lots of different eras. Do you remember the conversation we had where, because we have tried to educate her on all sorts of different types of music, a lot of times those musicians have already passed away.
Oh, I know.
And she would find out. And so then she started to realize, it would be like Michael Jackson, and she'd be like, oh, this is so great. Can we catch Michael Jackson in concert? And we'd be like, you cannot. And I'm so sorry. Why? Well, he's already dead. Oh my God. Yeah. And then it was like so sad. Yeah. And also the worst day ever was when we told her that Mr. Rogers had already gone on. Yes. Anyway, that's a whole separate conversation. But she does. So now when we introduce her to new music, because if good music is just music, it doesn't really matter what era it's from. And it's amazing to me how modern a lot of stuff will sound when you're listening to it again. You're like, oh, this has just been cool the whole time.
Well, she will routinely, at least once or twice a week, end up wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt to school or a Beatles t-shirt.
That one t-shirt she has has got to go, though. And it's not because it's the Rolling Stones. It's just all ratted.
It's just an ugly shirt. It's always been an ugly shirt.
Why did you let her buy that?
It was the cheapest Rolling Stone shirt we could get at the time.
I know.
But anyway.
And she has a Beatles t-shirt, which is really cute. And then she has like a 21 Pilots t-shirt. Oh. And so she's got lots of music education. Yeah. But she will say, we'll introduce her to a new group, and she'll be like, this is really great. Are they dead yet? And that's how it kind of starts.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting about it is, despite the fact that you were forced into listening to Christian pop music.
Hey, come on now.
I think probably because of the age we were when we were introduced to a lot of that music, it's still very evocative to us. And it's, to me, and this is where this title came from, it's, you've seen those giant maps, usually when you're older.
Yeah.
It's a huge map of probably the United States or sometimes the world, and if you've been to a place on that map, you push pin it. So, like, if you take a vacation or you're in the RV or you're trying to mark countries off the list.
Or hit the national parks.
So every place you've been, you do a little push pin that says, oh yeah, I've been to this national park, or I've been to this ballpark, or all that kind of stuff. And music, especially music from that era in our lives, it kind of acts like a push pin, because the moment you hear it, it's so easy to go back.
Yeah.
I'll still hear...
It transports you back.
Yeah, I still hear, and I'm not, like a Bon Jovi song from the specific album in the specific era, and the moment I hear that song, I always go back to sitting in the car listening to that song.
You mean Shot Through the Heart?
It was not that. It was the bad...
Darling.
You Give Love. Yeah. So, and so I still go back to those places, and, it's like sometimes smells act that way, and sometimes movies act that way, but songs are really that way.
They're so
powerful.
They do, and I feel like music bypasses the head and goes straight to the heart.
Yes.
And so, you'll hear some song that you've forgotten about, and then it's like you're immediately delivered back to what you were feeling in your life at that time. In fact, there are songs that I love that were in a time in my life that was really sad or painful, where I'd gone through a certain memory, and I will hear that, I'm like, nope, can't hear that today.
Yeah, there are some albums that serve such a specific purpose, like a surgery or like a healing thing, and because it takes you back to that moment in pain, that you really can't listen to them anymore now, because it's like you used up all their power in that spot. And I remember, speaking of bands like U2, and it opened up a whole... It was restless at a time that I was restless, but it also opened up some stuff about spirituality and God and all of that at a moment where I thought, oh man, this is like... So you can be cool and have these thoughts and conversations too. You don't have to neuter your soul to get to a place in these conversations. And that was life-saving for me at that moment in time, because I did think about those things. I thought about spirituality. I thought about God. I thought about that world. I thought about the kind of life I wanted to live and all that kind of stuff. And then here the song would come on and think, oh, you can combine all that.
That's right. You can use your brain and think and have lyrics that are poetic and don't have to be so obvious and are really heartfelt. And it could be about faith or, living a decent life, all of those different things.
I also remember having thoughts and considerations like at that same age where there was some music that was so good and so enjoyable, but it was also packaging ideals or ideologies and stuff that I knew were not right. So it might be a song that was, in a sense, kind of espousing racism, or it might be a song that was kind of that it was really degrading to women. And even at a young age, I mean, I wasn't I was no Puritan for sure, but there was something about that it ruined it for me. I couldn't, even though the packaging was perfect, even though the beat was right, even though the music was so good, and I thought, oh, this is great, and it was catchy and all that kind of stuff. But there was a thing in there that just said, the packaging doesn't really matter here.
When you say it was packaged perfectly, you knew that it mattered.
Yeah.
And you knew that what you were taking in mattered.
For an example, there are a lot of examples, and I don't want to run anybody's musical taste and stuff. I loved, coming up, especially through high school. I had two uncles that were older than me by 4 and 5 years, and so that was like having an older brother. So whatever they were listening to, so at the time they were old school too. They they listened to like the Beatles and all stuff. My Uncle Steve was the first one to introduce me to U2. We were watching music videos, and the song came on for A Pride in the Name of Love and Unforgettable Fire. Oh, cool. And I remember watching that video and thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. And they were listening to Duran Duran and all that kind of stuff. Sure. And then, but my uncle was also listening, Steve was listening to The Doors, and that caught me, and the music was really, really engaging. And But then the more I would, and I was like on a 4-year bender, with the Doors, and I bought books about, Jim Morrison. I bought poetry books by Jim Morrison.
You tried to get me to read his book, No One Here Gets Out Alive, and I was like, I just got out of youth group, buddy, and I'm not going to do it.
And
you're so mysterious.
So it was, but I can still remember, the whole stuff was so. Musically was so engaging, and then even lyrically was so engaging. And then when you think about what it is you're saying and singing, you're thinking, I don't know that I want to cancel my subscription to the Resurrection, and that's, so you just go through that stuff, or there were things like, there were a lot of things from, like Guns N' Roses, and I like most kids my age, Appetite for Destruction came out. It was a revolutionary album sonically, and I just thought this album is amazing. And then the deeper I would get into the lyrics, and you're thinking, these are the things I'm singing along to. This is what I am saying about this. And Lies, Lies, Lies came out after that, which was another great album.
All of this is like, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah, I know you don't. But it was saying things about, where we were, how we were going to treat other humans. Yeah. It was saying things. You can say the same thing about rap.
A lot of very misogynistic.
Oh my gosh. You can say the same thing about rap music. There are lyrics about the way we treat other people that we're in a relationship with. There was all kinds of lyrics about violence and all that kind of stuff. So I found that part of it interesting, that even though it was all packaged well and all that. And this part was interesting too. I was listening to somebody who was reviewing a book that they just completed.
This is recently?
Yeah. I just, I was listening to this interview maybe about a week ago, but part of this thing was talking about linguistics, and this person had written.
I heard that too.
Yeah. And so one of the things that she said in this book.
It's because I sent it to you.
No, but we're listening to the same, we're subscribing to the same podcast.
Interesting. Go ahead.
But anyway, one of the things that she said that was so really interesting was that, what we take stock in terms of linguistics and slogans, whether they're true or not, if you can put it in a slogan, somehow it seems more believable. And, and what was even more interesting was if you can put it in a rhyme scheme, for whatever reason, that makes it have a higher level of credence or a higher level of believability. So Stitch in Time saves 9, or this, that, and the other. So whatever those things are, it doesn't have to be true.
Okay.
But if you can make a slogan out of it, make it a rhyme in it, and I think, God, man, talking about music, that's, since music is usually based on a rhythm and a rhyme and a meter and all that stuff. So all those things happen, and you hear that, and you're thinking, by God, it's that must be true.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it goes in deeper. It has a longer staying ability in our minds. All that kind of stuff, and so it's really. So we have been as a people group. We have bought into and had this stuff resonate with us for so long, simply because it was a rhyme. And I think it's probably based on the fact that there were things that we developed, nursery rhymes and things like that were meant to be like mythology, meant to be things that would help keep us safe. And then somewhere in there, it kind of turned a corner. So we didn't vet all the information that was being said. It was just a rhyme, and it was catchy, and so it's easy to hold on to that stuff.
Huh. Yeah. Those are deep thoughts.
I know.
But music, to me, is a carrier of energy or life or, meaning, all those different things. And so that's why it's tough to describe that, right, to our girl. But I do think that what we take in matters. Right.
And I think she's getting that. I mean, she starts to recognize what she feels, what she takes away, what she walks away with, listening to stuff, versus other bands, other music. And so she's starting to quantify that. Some things you can't quite say. It's like that conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about banning certain words. It's not about banning words. It's about when and how you use those words. It's not about banning, music or genres of music or that kind of stuff. It's more like saying, now that you're of an age and you're going to start being responsible for yourself, you have to start making decisions. How do you want to feel walking away from this? What is this giving you in the process?
Absolutely.
And so
it's the same way with
decisions.
It's the same way I think with media that we take in, whether that's news media or we're already always listening to angry podcasts or whatever those things are, or watching. I mean, gosh, and I don't mean this. I don't mean to be judgmental, but sometimes I will be, and I am sensitive. Like I can't watch any horror movies that stay with me, or people suffering. So I know that I'm special.
Yeah, sure.
But I will have some people that I really respect, and and it'll come up some of the things that they're watching, and I just think, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know it.
And
Yeah.
it's not a judgmental thing, more it's just that, I don't know, I feel like I carry it with me.
Yes.
Maybe some people are able to more watch a bunch of murders, or you know,
Right.
or watch, oh my God, the murder shows where people are, what are they?
Unsolved murders and
Jeez, how do
Dateline
people
stuff.
watch
And,
that stuff? I mean, I would just be looking around my shoulder all the time.
I just
But-
think it's tough to watch that stuff because after a while you're like, oh, that's where he slipped up. When I murder somebody, I'm not going to do that thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So when you try to murder me,
Yeah, I'm like,
and
oh
you
no,
knock me off-
I've had 3 seasons of practice on this now. I will
But
not
the
make
thing
that
is,
mistake.
since I've never seen any of those shows,
Yeah.
it'll make it easier to kill me.
Yeah,
So it's
there
good
you
because
go.
I won't know.
What I think is interesting, and this is kind of where this conversation went when we did it as a Dreamers Live event, is it's this what we're really talking about at some level is the mind itself, and the mind is this amazing. I don't know what you want to call it.
It's
a
an
machine
organ.
where
No?
you just
Okay.
no. It's like a machine. It has this
Yeah.
an amazing intake valve.
Yeah.
And you know, like we like to say, it's like your mind is like on a public street, and so what's amazing about that is anybody can stop by.
Yeah.
Anybody can come by your address at any point in time.
Yeah.
And that's amazing because it means we have the opportunity to come into contact with people and colors and ideas and thoughts and stuff that we don't already own. There's this wide gate there where we can discover new things all the time. The challenge is anybody can come by your house
Yeah.
at any time, and so you have this huge intake valve
Sure.
of things that can come in, and at some point it's on us to kind of put in like filters
Yeah.
and say, these are the things I'm going to take in, these are the things I'm not going to take in.
Yeah.
And so you and I talk about this a lot
These
because
are the things that I know are going to bother me later.
yeah,
These are things that are going to increase fear or anxiety that I maybe already
Right.
struggle with.
Yeah.
And we all know those things.
Yeah.
You know, we know those, and it's probably different for everyone,
Yeah.
is my guess. But yeah, we have that responsibility, I feel like, to try and be protective of
what we let in.
my mind space and my heart space, you know?
And then there are just, like the, random, for lack of a better term, random thoughts that come into our brain. So like you and I would talk about, this morning, there's nothing inherently bad about this day, and yet you wake up, and so there's this anxiety
Yeah.
that is knocking at your door. There's this fear
Yeah.
that's knocking at your door. There's
Knocking so loud.
Oh my gosh. And so it's still on us on this public street to decide,
Yeah.
am I going to let that thought in, or am I going to say, no, thank you, nobody's here?
Yeah.
And so my personal challenge is that my mind is a constant battlefield. So every day, and usually multiple times in a day, I have to battle and make a decision as to what thoughts I'm going to let in
Yeah.
and what thoughts I'm going to say no thank you.
Yeah.
And
You gotta
hide
direct
behind-
that traffic.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
thoughts where you have to turn off the lights and hide behind the couch and act like you're not home,
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think everybody.
Yeah.
We're not open and honest about it
Right.
much in our culture. We have some close set of friends and family that we can. But I think everybody struggles with that. I don't.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I don't know that everybody understands, and we're coming to understand this more, that we have the control over that.
Right.
You
I think
know,
what is
we
more
can direct that
common,
traffic.
the more common response is, I'm the only one who feels this way.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the only one who thinks these weird thoughts. I'm the only one who has this anxiety. I'm the only one who has this fear. I'm the only one who gets depressed. I'm the only one who's in this place. And we don't really know that most people are kind of going through this crap.
Yeah.
Most
Life
people are
is-
going through this
It's
too.
hard. I mean, we say that a lot. I mean, being human is hard. It's also beautiful, but it's challenging. And
Yeah.
the people that I have become the closest to are obviously the ones that I can be the most honest with
Yes.
about my feelings or what I'm struggling with, and be like,
Yeah.
I know this is stupid because I have everything I need, but here's this, and that. And what we fear is that person's going to be like, oh, wow, you really
You're a
are
weirdo.
selfish, horrible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that has never once happened to me.
Yeah.
Every time I'm honest with someone, it's me too.
Yeah.
Oh, really? You too?
It's
you as well?
such an encouragement, as we say. I mean,
Yes.
you're on the struggle bus, but at least there are
Well,
other
I
people
feel
in
like
for you.
some days you're on the struggle bus, and some days you're driving the struggle
Yeah,
bus.
and I
So I woke up this
It
morning.
just never gets to my stop, so I can get off.
driving the bus. But it is. this is a great conversation to have because it's a good reminder. You know, if I'm struggling with, say, fear or anxiety, or maybe I'm struggling with, you know, being envious of what other people have, whether that's a relationship that seems better. Not that anyone could ever top what we have.
No,
I mean, I'm just saying. Or, you know, somebody that doesn't have to, you know, maybe they have a very nice salary and they get paid regularly or whatever the heck it is. Or maybe they look like they have the perfect relationship with their kid. We know that's not true. But if I'm already struggling with those things and yet I'm allowing music or media or conversations or, you know, television shows that are going to sort of reinforce the things I'm already struggling with, how am I ever going to get any better?
Well, you know, I think, you know, that's kind of the value of, you know, either what we call ancient scriptures or spiritual practices.
Or
and
code
stuff
of
like
ethics.
That.
Speaking of a great Christian band back in the day, they were cool.
Okay.
Good music.
Anyway, it's what ancient scriptures would call entertaining. So entertaining a thought. Why do you entertain these thoughts? Why do you let these thoughts reside
I love that.
in you? And that's what I do. So yes, you have this thought about, well, this marriage is a struggle and my spouse is an ass. Present company excluded. Present company excluded.
I'm literally right here.
But you know, my spouse is an Alice, and you know, so and so's wife is really nice.
Great. Her metabolism is so much faster.
It might be nice to be married to her. And so the entertaining part comes in when we don't kick that thought out. So the thought comes to the door.
Yeah.
Bump, bump, bump. Yes. Hey, wouldn't you like to be married to somebody else? Wouldn't life be easier if you were not married to this people, if you were doing your own thing? And then instead of saying, no, thank you, I'm not buying right now, you say, hey, I'm not doing that right now, but if you want to sit over here in this corner, I could hear your sales pitch later on.
Yes, and I could. In fact, come on in. I'm busy right now, but I'm going to come back and let me make you a martini.
Yeah.
Would you like a grilled cheese? And then you're officially entertaining the thought.
The more tired we get, the more struggle we get, the more likely we are to turn back to the shadows in our mind and say, now I'd like to hear your sales pitch. Yeah. Now I'd like to know what you were thinking about, you know, and this, that, and the other.
Oh, yeah.
And the longer we let that thing stay there, the more difficult it is to A, recognize truth, or B, kick that thing out. Because now it's fat from eating all your Cheetos.
It is, and before you know it, you've made it a guest room.
And you're like, well, we've been cohabitating for so long, we're technically married. So, you know, it's...
What was that? Was that Oklahoma common law? Is that a thing anymore?
Yeah, sure it is.
Where if you cohabitated for 2 years, so you saw a lot of boyfriends that would be like, we've been together 23 months, and I'm going to need you to leave now, because then we'll be officially married.
But it's, you know, it's all those things, and the reality of it, what's so diabolical about it is a lot of those thoughts are just so subtle. They just and they also generally, it's as if the voice is impersonating us. So I hear those thoughts, but I hear them in my voice.
Of course.
I hear those thoughts about, you know, quitting this job, or taking out this money, or getting this car, or you know, whatever it is, or fearing this thing and letting that fear just keep getting bigger and bigger. So instead of trying to remind myself of reality, instead of trying to remind myself of what I know to be true, I keep having conversations with this thing in my own mind, but it sounds like it's my thoughts. It sounds like it's my thing. And instead, it's this stranger that showed up to the door.
Exactly.
And I can't shake them right now. And so, to me, it's getting adept at recognizing the door knockers. It's getting adept at recognizing
your own door knockers.
Yeah.
Who's coming to your door all the time?
Yeah, so if you've entertained that person before, there's a pretty good chance they're going to come back and see, you know, like if someone shows up to your house and they're selling, you know, the oranges and grapefruits.
It would be chocolate for me.
But you know, they do that like every year or so. They'll come down the block and they get the box and would you like to buy oranges and grapefruit? Well, you buy one time, and that will register in their mind. They will be back.
Yeah.
Same thing with the thoughts. If you bite on that thought a couple of times, that thought's going to say, oh, well, we could just come back and try this again next week.
It's like your Facebook feed.
Yeah.
So you're there and you're scrolling and you see the how to speed up your metabolism and fix your gut. Those are always the ones that
click on it one time and you can just guarantee.
And then just the next day, just every other thing is a product for that. And what's funny is we started out talking about our conversations meander.
Sure.
But I mean, that's what good conversations do.
Right.
But we started out talking about, what you bring in terms of like media and music. What's interesting, and I have actually never thought about this before, if you're entertaining thoughts or you're entertaining an idea that is not good for your soul,
right.
and it's there, and you've made them a grilled cheese and a martini, and they're in your guest room because
right.
you're allowing it to stay. I wonder if those thoughts and those, well, for lack of a better term, temptations or things that would be
they could
bad
some
for
stuff.
you.
Yeah.
Wonder if they begin to dictate a little bit about what you say. Hey, let's watch this.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Hey, this
That's
music is sad.
Yeah.
This music is about breakup songs and women being done wrong, and there are some real ones of those. Right. But you know what I'm saying? Or this let's watch this kind of show.
Yeah.
This is about family drama
right.
and how the mom is always ignored by everyone.
Yeah,
she is. And in the Disney movies, they always kill the mom off. But anyway. But I wonder too if we're allowing that stuff to stay, how much of those shadows
right.
that are trying to stay, if we allow it to stay, are actually beginning to dictate some of our behavior.
So how do you think somebody could recognize, what's just a thought and what is the stranger at the door knocking
right.
to hang out in the shadows? How do you recognize those thoughts?
Sheesh, that's a tough one because like we talk about, like we don't. I mean, we're just living life trying to get by, and I think the repetitive thoughts for me.
Oh, that's a good.
That keep coming back. Like I'm not going to go into detail right now, but I've learned enough about myself to know that. For instance, we have a lot of just different things that we're juggling a lot. And a lot of it's because there are a lot of things we want to do. And I don't like to be bored. So sometimes I'm over busy because it's something that I planned because I had one moment of downtime and I'm like, let's do this. So like I know. But when I get over busy or feel overwhelmed, there are certain thoughts that I have started to recognize will always come to me. And it's sometimes in the form of envy. It'll be like, I'll be envious of a friend that I see that has some free time. Yeah. I'm like, well, that seems nice. Yeah. They're just by the pool or whatever, living their life, have time to read. I mean, that kind of thing. So for me, they're the things that keep coming back. I mean, I don't know that on this side we ever super overcome everything. Right. I think each of us have presets and struggles. Some of it's genetic, hereditary. Some of it's just the stuff we struggle with. That I have some struggles in my life that I've always had. Yeah. And in some ways, I've maybe gotten better at saying no to some of them. In some ways, they very sneakily put on a different mask and come around a different way. But it's still that same struggle that I'm having. Yeah. And so I don't know that we ever totally overcome it. But for me, it's that repetition. So sometimes when I know that's coming back, I can almost laugh at it and be like, oh, okay, this is the part where you feel sorry for yourself about this, this, and this. Yeah. And I start to recognize that knock. It's this one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Oh, okay, you're the 5 knock or whatever. Right. That person at the door. Yeah. And in a way, if you can joke about it with yourself, and I can joke about it with you or friends, I'll be like, this is the part where I feel sorry for myself because of this, or this is It's like I've seen the show. Right. And if we don't ever allow ourselves to take those cues, then we will stay at the same point. Yeah. And no one here is trying to be perfect, but I don't want to stay in the same painful place I keep bringing myself to. I'd like to feel better about that. And so, and I think it's important, we talk about this a lot with dreamers, and the concept is having people in your life that can help you see that. Yeah. Like we just had a conversation before we got here, and I'm not even going to tell you guys what it was, but it was about a reoccurring situation. Yeah. You and I tend to always want to make our environments better. We love to renovate. We're always, we can see the potential in things, but sometimes always fixing things up and always making them perfect shows that you're not okay to just let things be. Sure. That's a struggle that I have. Right. So that's what's knocking at your door in the conversation we had earlier. Right. And then I have my own version of that too. Well, I think but if you're mad at me and I say it, or you say to me, hey, this visitor was here last week. Right. I have to trust. Well, and that's a whole other interesting thing too, is our response. Sometimes our response can help us qualify if something's legit or not. If you're defensive. Yeah, if you get angry, we try to explain that to our daughter a couple times. When you come on super, super strong as a response, that usually indicates that someone got pretty close to the reality or the truth in that whole thing. The other day I said, did you get my phone and start searching. I was just on Amazon. I said, "Did you get my phone?" without asking. And Sarah,
Right.
I'm like, she's like, "What do you mean? Why would you say that I did that?" And you're like, only because
so when the reaction
10
is
days,
over the top,
10 times
then
a
it's
day.
usually pretty close to the truth.
Yeah.
Well, I think, the other thing you hit on, which I think is really important, I mean, there are a lot of us who struggle with different things about the way we see ourselves.
Oof.
And we can get into self-loathing, we can get into some self-hate, we can get into some depression and stuff like that. And this thing about being with people that we trust, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a thing when we're shopping our problems, though that can sometimes help if you have a trusted friend. It's just that when we're with more people, when we're with people in a social situation, even in a lighthearted situation, there's less room for those thoughts. There's less time for people to stop by. You're just literally not home to receive those thoughts.
My dad used to call it normalization therapy. And if we sit around and self-analyze and even talk with our friends about our problems all the time, good gracious. But if we're just out,
there's just less time to be
life.
depressed, less time to be anxious, less time to be afraid, less time to be thinking about someone down the street, all those kinds of things. And so I think that thing of being connected, and as we've talked about, I mean, research shows now that the leading factors for longevity and health are not even exercise and diet, so take that and shove it.
That's it. I'm going to eat a hamburger right now.
And it's not even genes. The leading factor on health and longevity is social.
Meaningful relationships.
How connected are you to people around you?
They say loneliness is the new smoking.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, the more, it doesn't mean you have to be with somebody 24/7, doesn't mean you have to be afraid of being alone.
No,
it's just that
being alone is
there
nice.
is something that resets when we're with other people, and there is as you'd say, the normalization that happens from being with other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes being with other people crowds out the voice of the stranger, and so you don't. And then by the time you're home, you're like, that's not really
It's not
true.
that big of a deal.
Yeah.
This morning, just being transparent, we were both struggling, not even with each other, but just a lot of circumstances.
Never with each other, generally.
I mean, we do sometimes, but we're just both just under it, is how I would put, from every area, when every area in your life is kind of sucking.
Yeah.
And then, you can get on each other and that type of thing. But we happen to go to the gym. What's funny is we go to the gym about the same time, but we don't work out together. We have different people,
right.
But it's just a convenient time in our schedule. But I said all that to say that on the way there, I was like, I am so sick of all of, everything was feeling very big of all these different things. I was really struggling to kind of just get myself together. But I know when I get to that place, and that may be a coffee group for you, it might be a church, it might be, your neighbors, whatever.
Right.
And the people there loved me, and we laughed. We
Yeah.
didn't talk about any problems. We talked about 80s movies that were funny, as we were working out, and we joked around.
Right.
And just by being around those people that I know love me, we didn't talk about any big problems or anything deep.
Yeah.
And having that positive exchange and remembering that life is good, I left that place feeling completely different on the way there.
Right.
Just by being around some people that I know love me for who I am and having fun,
I think if you're going to leave people with some keys, with some options on this stuff, if any of this resonates with somebody and they're thinking, okay, now I can recognize, the stranger's knock. Everybody's coming to your door. Some of those people are great guests. Some of those are inspired ideas. Some of those are revelations or insights. Some of those things are creativity. And then there are these other things. These other people coming up because it's a public street. Your mind is a public street.
Right.
So I think learning to differentiate our thoughts from these guests, I think that's a big deal. And I think part of that is this thing about remembering who we really are, holding things up. For us, we hold to some spiritual truths for ourselves, and that's kind of one of the filters for us. So, that's kind of the value of those ancient traditions and spirituality in the scriptures is because they've been vetted for over thousands and thousands of years.
And it doesn't mean sometimes on a bad day we choose to override what we know is right.
But
for the most
holding
part,
to those truths will help us, and those truths have been proven to be true, for thousands of years, and not by just one feel-good person who was just bubbly, but by people who were going through it, and in the hardship of what they were going through, they said, oh, I have lived these truths, and these truths I can tell you are actual in reality, and they have merit. And so that's the value of those things. So I think holding to those things, and then the idea of being with other people, because there are some ideas that I have that are just simply crazy, that are not healthy, good ideas.
Wait, what?
And then somehow by being with other people, I can recognize they're crazy.
Yeah.
But when I'm alone, they make all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
They have
getting
all
out there.
that. Yeah.
Getting out there and being with people. I think another takeaway would just be know what things feel or seem right to you when you're choosing things to listen to and to let into your mind and heart.
Right.
Whether that's, news media or, television shows or all those things. There's only so much space in there.
Yeah.
And I want to, and we all fail at this at times, but I want to, for the most part, try and fill myself with things that are going to help me do better.
Yeah.
And help me stay true to the purpose that I feel.
Yeah. Well, there's
there's
a phrase or a saying, I think, in the workout community and certainly at our gym. When we first started, they used to say that you can't out exercise. You can't exercise out bad nutrition.
Yeah,
so I can't out exercise bad nutrition.
You
can come in here and work out all you want, but if you're eating crap,
that's right.
It's still going to clog your arteries. It's still going to make you feel bad. It's still going to mess your body up, and it's still going to get in the way of your goals. Well, that same thing is true, I think, on an emotional or mental or spiritual realm as well. It's hard to say I want to be a positive person, I want to be a happy person, I want to be a healthy person when we're taking in what is the equivalent of fast food,
and
emotionally.
just a quick side note about that. It's going to be different. those thoughts that you struggle with are different for each person.
Right.
Just a quick example from my own life. So I'm not talking about, hey, don't watch porn. That's kind of a no, or whatever I'm saying.
Right,
if you want to.
sure.
But for me, here's a good example. So because I'm female and I live in America and I'm not tall and thin, I struggle with body image. I struggle feeling very bad about how I look, and just full disclosure. And I bet if there were 10 women in here, 7 of them would struggle. So for me, it's not like, hey, don't watch that evil show about murder so much. I wouldn't do that anyway because I'm a scaredy cat. But when I am around images of women, which I know a lot of times are airbrushed and fake, and I'm putting, I don't need to be watching shows about bodybuilding women that look amazingly skinny and still get to eat pizza. That is not helpful for me. That only hurts me. And so you have to, I think, know and talk about with the people you love those points of things and stray away. If I continue to see all that,
I think the
same
thing is true about even, which seems like normally good stuff, but just like the whole HGTV thing where with homes so it's constantly seeding this thing of
your
discontent.
environment isn't. That's exactly. Remember how we used to watch it because we'd like to renovate. And then at a certain point, I was like, I do not want to see one more perfect house. First off, they have like a crew of 20, and
But if it leaves you discontented with your own life and your own thing,
it leaves you discontented.
Then that's not healthy for us.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's right. We want to try.
I feel the same way.
Guard our heart and mind.
I feel the same way sometimes even about self-help stuff. Not this particular program because this is amazing.
Well, this is good.
But
I struggle with that. Listening to too many podcasts, listening to too much, reading
too many books about how to improve yourself, and then you're just left to make you feel like you're schmuck. Oh, I read that book, but I'm not applying that book now. Oh, I read that book, but I'm not living out those principles. And I only got 3 of the 7 principles, and now I feel like a failure. And
and we don't need that kind of help.
Maybe we just don't. Maybe just pick and choose and be more selective in that. So.
Yes, I agree.
So if you're picking and choosing, I think this is the podcast you want to pick and choose. So that's Dreamers Live. You can find us anywhere that podcasts stream, as well as on our own YouTube channel, Dreamers Live.
Oh, I feel so fancy that we have a
Dreamers
YouTube
Live
channel.
Now is our YouTube channel.
Dreamers Live Now?
Dreamer Live Now. Not right now, but just now.
Just now.
It's in all one word.
If you want to and you feel like it's good for your soul. I mean, that's...
You know what else is good for your soul? Sharing this podcast, liking this podcast, forwarding this podcast on to other people, and that way we all get to see more people and hear more people, have more connection that way. If you are interested in doing a Dreamers Live event in your neighborhood, we'd love to do that.
Yes, your church group, organizations, whatever. We can have this conversation or...
Come to your coffee shop, come to your bar, come to your house, whatever it is, and we'll do all that kind of stuff. And
it'll be fun.
Yeah. We have some Dreamers Live events coming up. Because when you guys listen to this and watch this, we won't bore you with those dates and times, but just know it's all coming up. But we will be back,
next
as Mr.
time,
Roger says, and we'll have more stuff for you.
As they say on Christmas family vacation, Good talk, Russ.
Good talk.
It was a good talk.